Pulisic dentro, Rafa. Gol! Abraham! Gol! È l'azione più bella del mondo! È l'azione più bella!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by the reliable, the ever-present, the GOAT, some might say, Anthony Torgrud.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't always. Sometimes it'd be nice to just call out without much notice and, it just be okay. But
Wow, you're getting a dig in at Maddie nice and early there, I see.
I didn't even mean it at him, just in general. But hey, if that's how we take it.
Mate, this isn't one of those weeks. We should have smiles on our faces. We've got 2 wins to talk about and 2 clean sheets.
Yeah,
One of them's a derby win.
Whoa, 2 clean sheets.
This
Wow.
is the single most positive episode of the season, probably. And it means fuck all, really, apart from getting to the final.
Yeah. Wow.
What have we done there? 50 seconds. Monetization's fine. Slipped in an early swear word there, but we're all good. Yeah, as mentioned, we got a couple of good games to recap. We haven't had much joy to talk about this season, but we're up for this one. But before we dive into it in full, thank you as always to our founding members over on the Substack: Des Windsor McGlynn, Tito, Matt, Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Jack, Carlo Fassi, Nasser, Merlin, Finker, Derek Favretto, Havanli 13, Mike Schulz, JT Physio, Tarek, Marco Villela, Roberto Racinos, Ken, and Medi K. Really appreciate all the support that you show us over there. For those who are not familiar with it, I know I do this at the start of every episode, but you may be a new listener. If so, welcome. That is where you go and get our premium content, longer form stuff, bonus podcasts, newsletters, and early access for news. And I can give a little plug, actually. We are releasing something later today on Tuesday, the 29th of April, which is about Conceição's future. And it's a little bit of a surprise twist from information that we have heard. So go check that out. Pub chat is another thing you can find on there. Lorenzo and Steph most recently talked about what could have been in the Istanbul final 2004-05 Champions League when Milan lost on penalties against Liverpool. Bit of a butterfly effect from if we had triumphed in that game, obviously under Carlo Ancelotti. The most recent bonus podcast that me, you, and Madison did was about how we'd lost 6 derbies in a row and then we've gone 5 unbeaten them in this season. What's changed tactically? What's changed from a mentality standpoint? And of course, we're gonna cover the game in its entirety in this. Isaac's most recent bonus article was some considerations on Conceição's future, why the idea of investing in another striker in the summer is ludicrous, and the fact that the management continue to be quite confused in their comments to the media. And then the newsletter was all about the Coppa Italia victory, Rome calling, and in that you can find the main stories from the site over the past week. Alrighty, that's done. Let's go. I wasn't confident for this at all.
Nope. And got to give credit to Madison, the only one who predicted a win. Almost got the exact score right. He's the 3-1. On aggregate, it was 4-1. So, hey, good job to him. Broken clock's right twice a day, right?
Assume he's not here twice a month. It was outstanding, honestly. And I don't necessarily mean like the performance was perfect or anything, although you can make an argument that
it's pretty close.
Tactically, we were near perfect, but just the whole occasion was brilliant because it feels like we had previously been the thorn in Inter side this season coming into this game, having won the Super Coppa final. We'd taken 4 points from them in the league. They'd love to have those 4 points now because they're second by 3 points. And then, Super Coppa final out in Saudi Arabia, which obviously gave us the trophy. And this was a direct chance to end their dreams of a treble. And boy, did we do it. Luka Jovic, star of the show, with a goal either side of half-time. Mental. I think there were some eyebrows raised when Conceição chose to start him over Tammy Abraham, given how Tammy had been in the derby. And then Reinders seals it late on. Just a magical night.
Yeah. It was insane, to be honest with you. Like you said, no one really anticipated this. We thought, okay, we might be able to, I predicted penalties and still a loss, but we kept with the 3-man defense. We kept with Jovic up top, and everything I was critical of the team for for doing or not doing rather against Atalanta was resolved in this game. I mean, everyone was perfect. Inter could have scored probably about 5 times in the first half if they just knew how to shoot the ball. I mean, early on, everyone was in the box, shots just off goal. No, I'm watching the highlights right now, so I could get them up here. Oof, first Jovic goal was nice. But I mean, everyone was just doing exactly what they should have done. Even Jovic was dropping back, and I made a joke to Bader, but it wasn't actually a joke. It's just funny when you think of Jovic, but he played the Lukaku role perfectly. When he dropped back this time, unlike Atalanta where he dropped back and he wasn't doing anything, this time he dropped back and was back to goal, hold up play, waiting for the wingers to get past him, and then laying the ball off and making a run, making attacks. Just you could see the tactical idea and the fact that they understood it. I know after the Venezia game, Conceição said he doesn't like this formation, but like
Mm.
I don't know why you would not like the best formation of your tenure here. Like clean cheats. He has 5 total. He had 2 in a row. Like this is your favorite formation, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing I want to shout out is Alex Jimenez, the very first
Yeah.
assist of
Yep.
his senior career. Um, Look, he's been fantastic since we made the switch to the new formation 3-4-3.
Mm.
It, he still made some mistakes in this game, but like he got an assist. It's the one thing that I've been super critical about him for is 0 goals, 0 assist, and double-digit yellow cards in his senior career. Like that's not a player who should be going forward for us. That could be a defensive guy in a pinch, but even then, you want someone who's not going to be getting yellow cards all the time. And in this formation, he's no cards. He's always in the build-up. Apologize, my allergies are killing me today. But against Venezia,
I
he even
feel that.
a couple or one hockey assist in Venezia, and I believe one against Inter as well, and then
Mhm.
the actual assist for Jovic's first goal. So he's definitely in the build-up a lot more. He's doing the right things. His decision making is getting better. He's growing as a player and probably as a kid as well. He's
Yeah.
showing a lot more maturity, and big ups to him. I've been vocally against him, and I think he's turning a new leaf, and he looks fantastic. So I want to call that out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fair
go ahead.
play.
I'm just rambling.
He's only 19, which I think is something to remember. And there's a reason that Real Madrid are potentially looking at buying him back, which it's annoying that is still dangling over us. But one thing I will say that has surprised me about the new system is that you think Teo and Jimenez would play the wingback role in relatively similar ways, just on opposite flanks, but they actually are playing it very differently.
Mhm.
Teo remains, I'm just going to get the ball and run in a straight
Yeah.
line in field, which can be frustrating, but it can also unlock things, as we've seen in the past. But Jimenez is playing it in a much more technical way. As you said, he's participating in the build-up. There's a bit of positional rotation going on that side, with Pulisic sometimes dropping in and him pushing onto the byline, or sometimes cutting in field, as we've seen for the feed for Jovic in that Atalanta game. He basically found himself in the number 10 role. So he's gaining confidence, I think, with each passing week with this new system. As you say, in that first half, he was very suspect defensively. We could have found ourselves 1-0 down when DiMarco got that space down the left side, Inter's left side,
Yeah, hit the
and
crossbar.
rattled the crossbar with a shot. Yeah, and they had other opportunities into two. And this is what we were saying on the bonus pod as well, which I'd obviously encourage you to go and listen to. But goals change games, and I think that we are looking at a very similar performance to the Atalanta game, one that we were widely criticised for. But the difference is this time we took our first big chance. And in that Atalanta game, we didn't when Leao went in behind and when Jovic had that moment. And this time, Jovic gets that header and he plants it into not quite the top corner, but, inside the far post. And all of a sudden, we've got the game in more of a manageable position. All of a sudden, Inter have to expand a lot of energy that they don't have to try and get themselves back into the game to break us down. And that is the crucial thing, to score when we did. I went into half-time and I was already starting to think about the possibility of, we're 45 minutes from a final here. Whereas in previous derbies, it's been like, okay, how are we going to foot this? what are we going to do to implode in this particular fixture? And I don't know if that. I think this is the point to bring it in. How much of it was our merits and how much of it was us beating up on a clearly knackered team? That they are really shot at this point.
In every competition, they're dropping off heavily. I mean, lost again this weekend. Or was it a draw or was it a loss?
No, they lost 1-0 to Roma.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Napoli are now 3 clear.
3 straight losses, 4 without a win
Without
for
scoring.
them in 3 different competitions. Obviously, the fourth game being the 2-2 draw against Bayern, which sent them through to the Champions League semi. So it's not a bad result, but still, it was a sign of things to come. Apparently, they look exhausted, and it showed in the way that they were shooting, and it showed up until really the Jovic goal. Once he got that first goal in 35th, 36th minute around that time, they were a shell of the team that they are. It was all Milan after that. There was very few moments where I felt like Inter could actually do anything. I still didn't trust a 1-0 lead. Obviously went into halftime shortly thereafter, 9 minutes, and then come out the second half, Jovic gets another one. And it's a bit of an awkward one. I believe it came from a corner that was unsaved, and then he just the ball fell perfectly to him, and he puts it away. When you concede a goal like that, and you're in the form that they're in, and everything's just going against you, a goal conceded like that really it takes the wind out of your sails. You can see it on the players' faces. They're just like, okay, this is it. And I never felt like they were getting back into it after that. Honestly, after the first goal, I was a little too comfortable. But I knew it was Inter. Anything could happen. We conceded with 30 seconds left, a 1-1 game before. So I knew, we weren't out of the woods. The second goal, I felt like we were. And I know that's crazy to say because I've seen Milan go 2-0 up against Inter and then lose 4-2. I seen that recently. That was Zlatan's first season back. So it's possible, but it just never really felt like it would. And then Reinders scored. What minute did he score? It was fairly late, right?
On, I think it was it's like the 89th or something.
85th.
It was late. 85th.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was after a lot of changes too, because Gabia went down hurt, so that kind of gave him a little hope. That was shortly after Jovic, but after Jovic's second goal, they made it a quadruple sub. I mean, that's exhaustion, that's desperation, that's every negative thing. Like, if you make a quadruple sub, you're in panic mode. You should never be making that as a coach. I mean, 6 years ago, you only got 3 subs in a game. Now you're making 4 subs at once. That's crazy. But then we also brought on Loftus-Cheek, who is really good at getting the ball from point A to point B, and that's about it. Not much passing or anything else in it, which was a good sub, actually, I thought, in this moment, because that's all we needed to do was just keep the ball away from him. And he was able to do that. And then when Tammy came on, I believe he even had an opportunity, but he just missed it or just whiffed it or something. I can't remember. But yeah, and then obviously Leao had a great assist for Tej, 3-0, and it was, that was all she wrote. Yeah, everyone knew. You see Inzaghi screaming, "Don't give us any added time. I don't want it." Which is so embarrassing. You know what's
more embarrassing though, that they didn't. It's not up to him to decide, because ultimately it does bring the question of integrity of the competition in, because it probably wouldn't have happened because of the position in the game and the fact that we were probably seeing it out at that point a bit. But Bologna are looking at that thinking, well, what if one of the players had got a yellow card that would have been banned for the final? Teo and Reinders were a yellow away from missing the final.
Yeah.
If you get 4 minutes less or however long would have been added to do that, they're right to kick off. But anyway, obviously it works fine for us. We win. We get the early celebrations. Right. Inzaghi looks like an idiot.
But the integrity is... It's wrong. You shouldn't do that. I mean, if it was who's right, Doveri was the referee. If it was Doveri and he came up or went up to Conceição and he went up to Simone and just said, "Hey, do you guys want extra time or do you want me to just call it?" That's a bit different, because then it's like, okay, this is Mercer rule. You guys are cooked. There's no coming back. But it's a referee. I don't want it. I don't want it. It's not your place to do that, and stay in your technical area. Stop getting in
Which
the
he
referee's
didn't
face.
again.
He should have got a red card for doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, I
But
should.
instead, he got his wish because Morata League and he was getting cooked. So,
It's
which is fine. Whatever. I'll take the
It's
3-0
a
win.
step up now. Yeah, I'll take the win definitely, but like all the subs were used and there were incidents in the second half, so there should have been time added, but it is what it is. Look,
Yeah.
ultimately it allowed us to start the party a little bit earlier. I tweeted after the game that it should have probably been 5 or 6 in our favour. It should probably have been 5 or 6-2, let's say, but it really could have been if it was totally all against Inter. In terms of stuff going against them in the game, it really could have been another 6-0. Like we had big chances when we went 2-0 up. The one where Leao ran in behind, got 1-on-1 with Sommer, rounded him, and tried to square it for Jovic to get his hat trick.
It was the other one.
Martinez, sorry,
Yeah.
and tried to square it for Jovic to get his hat trick when really he should have just taken it on. He scored a similar goal to that in the 3-2 derby win after the Scudetto season. Pavlovic had a near post header from a corner that wasn't far away. Maignan made a good save on De Vrij.
Oh my God! What a that was good is an understatement. That's the best save I've ever seen.
Wow, that's an overstatement. So it's somewhere in the middle.
I don't know.
It was good. It was good. I mean, that's a reminder, if ever you need it, of Maignan importance in certain moments and his shot-stopping ability, because if that goes in, we are potentially talking about a different outcome, because at that moment, 2-1, there's a goal in it again. It gives them a bit of belief to push on, But yeah, they had one where Fratesi flicked it on and Arnautovic put it wide. They had chances, but I just feel like they're on that run of luck at the moment where not much is going in their favour, but they've been on such a run that it was bound to happen eventually, I want to say. Look, they made 6 changes, and in terms of the dream of the treble, this is probably the least important in their eyes. And I saw a really good tweet from an Inter journalist after the game, which said something along the lines of like, you can underrate the Coppa Italia, you can push hard for the Scudetto and hard for the Champions League, but if you put all of your eggs in you try to put all your eggs in all the baskets kind of thing, you risk going home with nothing. And they are now in that position where it could be a season-defining week for them, and not in a good way.
It is what was the name of the Amazon series that Juventus crashed out in? All or
Nothing.
I mean, that's
nothing.
That's where it is.
Well,
I think everyone who had an all or nothing ended up with nothing, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't Arsenal the other one? And
Arsenal, yeah. Spurs had a documentary, didn't they? Mourinho
Arsenal,
was there.
Spurs, and Juventus. That's so funny.
And the Sunderland Till I Die one as well. And
that
they
one's
died.
great, though. They did die. They did die.
Yeah, that one is really good, by the way. But yeah, look, I will get this out of the way now, and we can move on to praising our lot again. But I do think that they deserve credit, and they deserve to be commended for the fact that they have kept up being sort of a machine for this long into. But when so many of those gears are getting older and older, I think you are going to jam eventually. For want of a better analogy. And I just wonder if that's what we're witnessing now. They could go on and win the remaining 4 league games. It is entirely possible. They could even do a job on Barca. Say they go and draw at the new camp tonight and they win at home. Like, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they still end up with a double here. But it does look a little bit like we've beaten a team that's in the process of the wheels falling off. And might be famous last words.
I've never actually been confident in an a Scudetto, let alone treble. I thought this was probably the competition that they had the best chance of winning. I felt like, look, I know Feyenoord beat us, but we suck, and I thought it was an easy draw for Inter. I thought they got lucky against Bayern with Fratesi's last-second goal in the first leg. They were losing.
Bayern missed so many chances in both legs.
Missed a lot of chances, and then if they beat Barca, that would be a shock. Barca's a really good team right now. Obviously, Lewandowski's out, so that gives them a little something. But they still won El Clasico over the weekend, so it's not like Barca's on their last legs either. So I never felt it. I saw some people. It was Matteo Bonetti, the commentator for CBS, tweet that Marco Messina was the only person to ever say Napoli had a chance at the Scudetto, and I'm like, that's crazy, because if you're a normal person and not stuck in your little commentator bubble, you saw a lot of people say Napoli have a chance to win the Scudetto. And I kind of felt that from the beginning. You know, Napoli were very far ahead clear for a while. I remember around December, everyone kind of just assumed, yeah, it's Napoli's year again. They got it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone who thought otherwise. And then there was that switch, obviously with Kvara leaving, and then some Inter started catching up. But I never felt like Inter were going to run away with it. I mean, as many Inter games as I've watched this season, the downward progression was very obvious, and it's not like I'm saying anything crazy. I don't know anyone who disagrees with that. You know, everyone I talk to says like, yeah, you could see the tired legs. You said the wheels are falling off. They're a very old team. I don't know what the average age is, but if you go through it, look at this lineup right now. The majority of them are over 33. Taremi, Mkhitaryan. I think DeMarco's actually young. He just looks old because he's got the hairline of a 50-year-old. Darmian's 35. Barella's probably about to be 30, but he also has a hairline like mine. De Vrij is ancient, you know. I mean, it's not good. It's old. This was their last chance to go all in. You know, those older experienced players, they're the ones that will win you a treble, and that's what they've built. They've been building ready-made stars for a while. But the problem is every year that you don't win that, it gets harder because you get older and you lose a bit more. And here we are. So I'm not surprised.
I do think that I wouldn't be too worried about them if I was a fan, just because the core pieces are still in their prime years, you know.
Yeah,
I think Martinez will take over as the first choice keeper. Lautaro and Thuram are fine, although they've not had much injury luck with them. Dumfries fine, Barella fine, Bastoni fine, and the other pieces are probably interchangeable to an extent. But what remains to be seen is how they cope without such leadership in the dressing room, and if they've got the money to sort of replenish the squad. You know, that's something else we need to wait and see. Might it need a big sale, even though they've been on a deep Champions League run? But yeah,
summer's going to be interesting for them.
Yeah, I hope it crashes and burns for obvious reasons. Back to us, I've got to praise pretty much everybody front to back, because when you play against Inter, I think there's an acceptance that, and said this after the Atalanta game, that I thought it was a bit of a dress rehearsal, the way that we played in that, to see if we could do it, to see if we could stop them and then hurt them at the other end. And that is exactly what we did. I thought the game plan was executed near perfectly. Go read our tactical analysis on the site, obviously, for more in-depth stuff on that. But I thought everyone to a man did their jobs. You know, I don't think there was anybody really that was below a 6 out of 10. And in fact, there was a lot of 7 and 8 out of 10s. And that's been a rarity this season. So, yes, as much as I want to almost berate the players for saying, where's this been all season? I just can't bring myself to do it. Instead, I'm looking at flights for Rome. Like, you know, we've got to enjoy these moments, man. Yeah. Of course, we're now going to go and get beat 3-0 by Bologna in the final. But we've not been able to praise them much, so I'm just happy to do it. For this night, it clearly meant a lot. You know, you saw that with the celebrations when Reinder's third goal went in. You saw it with the players dancing under the curve at full time. It just felt like it's been a season of such chaos and disconnect that something just sort of clicked again. But
yeah,
a lot needs to be done, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like for once there'd been a little bridge built, like go and win this and then next season let's start afresh kind of thing. Man of the match, I'll go Lukaku.
Yeah, Lukaku Jovic.
Yeah.
Of course, it's got to be right. You score a brace in a derby, you are man of the match, no matter what.
Yeah, but honestly, shout out to so many players. I think that the 3 centre backs did a good job. Like, it's hard against the front two sometimes, especially when we were at that point only 2 games into the new system. Obviously, Venezia, Atalanta into that third game. And shout out to Fofana Reinders too in the midfield double pivot, because on paper they're outnumbered by a 3 across the middle, and yet we didn't give them too much down the central areas, which is good. And it was good. Pulisic maybe was the one who was quietest, but he does so much important work off the ball. Like, he dropped in again to be a number 8 to basically even up the numbers in midfield. And like, I'm not surprised that he wasn't there leading the transitions when he's doing so much work off the ball. And without it, I don't think we win 3-0. So
yeah, I think that's one of the things about this formation is it does kind of nullify Pulisic's attacking threat, which obviously that's sucks. You want your best attackers to be attacking. He's on 50 goals and assists now for his Milan career, 25 on the season. Incredible numbers, right? No one's arguing that. But it does force him to draw back and be a bit more conservative and be more involved in the build-up or off-the-ball build-up. And that helps Alex Jimenez get forward a bit more. And obviously it resulted in a goal still for him. So, I don't hate it. And of course, he scored in the Venezia game, which we'll get to. So, maybe it makes him a little bit quieter, but it doesn't mean he's having bad performances. He's had bad performances this season. I don't think this was one of them. It was quieter, but it still, I thought he did good enough. I don't know who you'd even pick for a flop, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess Tammy maybe, but I feel like that's harsh. He didn't play that much. I don't know if there really is a clear-cut flop. Gabbia, because he came off hurt, but even that's rude. Like, I don't. There's just no
I think I know you can't do it because he got an assist that ultimately killed the tie. But Leao was probably the player I was most frustrated with because he went up against Bissek one-on-one a couple of times early in the first half and got. He was without him. That's another thing. Without him, it's certainly higher than 3. He was literally outstanding. I have no idea where that came from, and he's someone for them to build around, unfortunately.
But you know what? And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like on the second Jovic goal, the one that just kind of falls perfectly to him, I feel like it falls to Leao first, and he hits it into an interplayer to Jovic. So it's
Barella's hand.
Pseudo assist. That's right. It was Barella's hand. So it would have been a penalty if he didn't score.
Would have been a penalty,
Which is funny because 2 assists, but you don't. But
the Inter players surrounded the ref, and it's like, you can have a look if you want, lads. It's not good news either way. I thought that was
maybe we could save a penalty.
Well, fair enough. You would. But there was an element of fortune with that. As we put in the analysis, it was interesting because that was actually a brilliant decoy set piece. We did the usual thing of loading up the near post, and I think that's where Martinez and the defenders were expecting it. Barella was put on the far post, and for once, we got a set piece delivery right. It arced perfectly to that area and then scramble, put it in. Don't care how they come, but actually that was more well executed than the cleanliness of it all looked, But just generally, Leao kind of got dominated by Bissek in that one-on-one. Missed a couple of chances in transition, including the one where he should have shot but squared it. But overall, I don't feel too comfortable picking a flop. Let's enjoy that. That was a good night. It was a good night. And now we come to Venezia, the game by the lagoon. I think me and Maddie predicted a draw for this one. I said we'd lose in the cup and there'd be a bit of a hangover with this because the season would be done and we wouldn't be able to get ourselves up for it. It couldn't have gone the opposite way, more the opposite way. Another win and a clean sheet, and we scored right at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. So early kickoff for me, 6:30 in the morning. I'm not going to pretend like I was that focused on the game. It was too early. And look, this is a team that's fighting relegation. So when Pulisic scores, 9-10 minutes into it?
4.
Okay, 4 minutes into
first attack,
I'm very comfortable. I'm on the couch with a blanket and a coffee. I'm not paying full attention, so sue me. I can't. My analysis is not going to be that great because, look, I just wasn't paying full attention to it. That's not what you want to hear from a host, but I don't care. That's the reality of it.
If it helps.
Yeah, a little bit. So. But Pulisic scored early. Great goal. Again, Alex Jimenez involved in the build-up. He had the hockey on it. It was Fofana had the assist. It was incredible. Great ball to find a first-time pass. And it reminded me a lot of Tammy's goal against Inter in the first leg, where Pulisic went wide and he just kind of got it and went the other way. And it worked perfectly. And then from that point on, it was a very boring game up until the 96th minute when Santi finally gets a goal. So,
it were the Fofana pass. All right, I agree. It still had to be executed and stuff. But Jesus Christ, what were Venezia doing 4 minutes in? Like the sea parted, which is ironic given where it is, but literally just wide opened up like that. Fofana. Nice, easy 10-yard through ball for Pulisic, who stood on his own, basically. And then, nice, easy finish. That's not what you want to do if you're in a relegation battle.
No, but it's what you do when you are in one.
Yeah,
That's how you
for
get
sure.
there. The official Milan account posted something, I think it was last night or this morning. But you see when Fofana makes the pass before Pulisic even gets the ball, you see Reinders throw his hands up like we did it.
Yes, I've seen that.
It's
Yeah,
great.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Nice finish, of course, and it was his 10th league goal of the season, and he becomes the top scorer again in all competitions for us. Does Pulisic? He's having a nice little battle with Reinders,
Yeah.
which is good to see. And yeah, that kind of, I guess, again, put the game in our favour, because we've been so used to chasing games under Conceição because we've gone behind that it's nice to be more consistently taking the lead and being able to manage things, being able to not have the pressure to break them down. I do think that there's still an expectation that against opponents like this, we're going to play champagne football. We haven't all season, really. I know we beat Venezia 4-0 in the return game under Fonseca, but there was a couple of penalties in there. Venezia imploded. But it's not going to happen. Like, we're way beyond that point. We're in 9th for a reason. We've dropped so many points. I know we beat Inter, but we talked about the circumstances with that. I just don't think we were ever going to blow Venezia away, really. They then sort of found something from somewhere. They put us under pressure until we killed the game off. They even had a goal through Yeboah. Can't remember his
Oh,
first
that's
name.
right. And it was offside. Yeah.
It was offside. It was a close one, but it was offside on Busio, I believe. But that was a nice goal, a well-executed move down the left side and a thumping first-time finish. But that was a bit of a let-off for us. But this game was it was not a great spectacle. It just wasn't. It stunk of an end-of-season game where there's a team that doesn't really need the points, but they're playing a clearly inferior opponent. So then they get the goal, and it's like, you're not going to draw us out. You're going to have to
Yeah.
break us down, and they couldn't really do it. And then, we get the second one with pretty much the last kick of the game. That was the big positive for me, even though he shinned it. Was getting
Look,
Santi back in the goals.
it almost felt not dirty, but just kind of like cheap. Like I thought when we lined up for the free kick that they were just going to boot it and blow the whistle as soon as the ball is in the air. I mean, we were
Yeah.
6 minutes into the 5 minutes of added time or whatever it was. So the fact that they let it continue is probably just because they saw the arc was going right to him. They said, all right, let's just see him shoot it. And then he chipped it when Venezia was not even rightly, but they were obviously done. The game was over. They weren't coming back. They knew that this was the last play of the game. They had already lost. So you feel good for Santi, but you notice with him, his celebration, normally he runs down, he does like the get on his two knees and points up or whatever. He just did one little of those, just all right.
He did a badge pat as well,
Yeah.
which we quite like, and
Yeah.
it's
But yeah, it was good to see him get back on the score sheet. I'm not going to pretend like he had a good game. When he came on, man, he was slipping, missing things, and he had an opportunity to score. Loftus-Cheek gave him a really great pass that he had a header on that went wide. I don't think it was that bad of a shot, to be honest. I know a lot of people are going like, "Oh, you ruined this. What could have been a great assist for Loftus-Cheek," and I'm like, I mean, it's a decent shot. It was wide. It's just from the angle, But
Is that
besides
the
that,
header?
yeah.
Yeah,
There
I
were a
mean,
few other moments where he didn't look too hot, but everyone was slipping, so it's not like he was the only one who couldn't
Yeah, they
find like
were.
literal footing in this game.
Huh.
Yeah, and then I mean, when you take Leao off in the 70th minute, like this game's wrapped, right? Like it was done.
Yeah,
Kyle Walker
yeah,
came back first time since he broke his elbow. That's
yeah.
about it. I mean, Terracciano came in, Joao Felix came in. Like it was, this
Yeah,
game
we,
was
we should.
over.
Yeah, we should mention as well that Jovic got injured in the warm-ups for this. That kind of forced a
That's
late
right.
change to the plans with Tammy starting up front, which I don't think any of us hate. There might be a chance for more natural rotation in view of the final anyway. But it might have just upset things a little bit, right before. Maybe that's why we weren't the most fluid, because we'd named the same lineup 3 games in a row and we were expecting to do it for a fourth, and then all of a sudden the number 9 changes and Jovic had been playing so well. It should be fine. They're not wildly dissimilar. Tammy drops in. Tammy's good with the hold-up play. And we know his finishing at times this season has been pretty good. But yeah, I just wondered if that upset things a little bit.
That's really been the
I
story of Jovic, really his entire career after probably since the move to Madrid. He's had lumbago and it flares up all the time and it keeps him out for a while and
hmm.
that sucks. He's decently young still, right? Isn't he like 28, something like that?
Yeah, I
Or
think he's 27. Yeah, I
27?
mean, he
Yeah.
was he was the 60 million man at one point, when he went from Eintracht to Real Madrid, and of course, since then, it has felt like a bit of a gradual decline. Then he gets to Fiorentina, he joins us and does well, earns the
Yeah.
renewal, earns the number 9. But then by one point in the season, he's fourth choice, even behind Kamada when he was starting and getting minutes. It has just been a really, really odd season. And now there's talk of him potentially getting a well-earned renewal out of this, after scoring
Yeah.
4 goals in 5 games, including a derby winning brace. I mean, I can understand the calls for it. And I think, didn't he undergo an operation on his back?
I think he probably did, but I don't remember. I
I
just feel
don't
like
know
he
how
did
it
because it's
works,
been such
though.
a long process for him. I don't know if it was like an actual surgery or if it was just like he had to have
Draining
treatment on it.
fluid or whatever.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know the specifics
Um,
of what happens with lumbago, but I know it's
no, but it does seem to be
lower
a
back
chronic
pain.
problem.
Hmm.
Um, he
Yeah.
did in November. He had surgery
Okay.
on his back. Um, no, that seems to be a groin injury. So he had
Oh.
surgery on a groin problem, and then he's still struggling with his lower back. I guess it's all mechanics, right? And it's all interlinked in
Mhm.
some way. But yeah, it sounds like the good news is Sky was saying that he's absolutely fine and he'll be back in training within the next few days. Probably manage him a bit carefully in view. How the fuck are we talking about this, by the way? Having
It's
to manage Jovic carefully ahead of a cup final. What has happened to
yeah,
this season?
it is pretty
Um,
wild.
yeah, it is. It's mental. But yeah, I honestly don't have too much else to add on the Venezia game. It was a bit like everybody woke up sleepy still, and that's sort of the way the game was played. I think Venezia probably wise enough to know that that is not a game where their fate's going to be determined. I don't know how their remaining fixtures
Yeah.
look.
I will say I'm looking at the FOTMob ratings and I just want to point out something that I don't think I've ever seen.
Mm,
One of the center backs for Venezia, Candy, I
mm.
don't know how to pronounce it, has the lowest rating I've ever seen. A 4.9. I've never seen someone with a red.
Ooh,
It's always that dark orange. Um, and he
that's
played the full 90, which is even weirder. It only seems like he got a yellow card. I don't remember anything about him, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the score's a little harsh, to be honest. I've seen these numbers before. It's like 2 out of 5 duels won. Like, that's
mm.
bad. But I've seen our players do that before too,
It's like,
know?
surely you need an own goal or something
Yeah,
for that to be.
crazy.
Yeah, Venezia 2 points adrift from safety after Lecce went and got a win. Went and
Mm,
got a draw. Sorry, against Atalanta later than that. And in their last 4 games, they've got Torino away, Fiorentina at home, obviously in the European fight, Cagliari away, and Juventus at home, also in the top 4 fight. So if you to ask me to put money on it, I think the bottom 3 will stay as it is: Monza, Empoli, Venezia to drop.
yeah,
Um,
sounds right.
Parma was so close to getting a massive win at Lazio to basically confirm their safety, but they bottled a 2-goal lead late on. But they're unbeaten in 5, so they'll be fine. And then it's just Lecce, but Lecce have won 2 more games than them. They've got Napoli next, so they'll lose that hopefully. But then they've got Verona and Torino at home, and they finish away at Lazio. So yeah, I think the relegation places are looking more and more set as they are. Man of the match for me. Do you know what? I'm gonna go with Reinders because I loved that through ball right at the end. Even though, as you say, it did feel a little bit like low hanging fruit with it being the final seconds and they'd kind of
Yeah,
switched
free
off and
kick.
stuff. It's still a 50-meter ball
Yeah, fair.
over the top and on a sixpence.
I'll go Fofana then. He also obviously had a great assist, and I feel
Mm.
like the entire game, and honestly, the last couple games, he's been really hitting top form. I know we've complained about him in not that so kind of decently recent times. So
Mm.
it's nice to see that turning around. I don't know, maybe this is just another formation that's working really well for our midfield because they've been on point ever since. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think he had a great game.
Fofana was brilliant, actually, and I'm glad to see that because he'd certainly suffered a drop off earlier this year.
and I think it was because he was knackered. But this formation does seem to be a fit for the pair of them because Reinders goes when Fofana stays, but Fofana can also go forward because he's got the extra centre back as cover. It's funny how that works. Yeah, let's move on. Who've we got? Genoa next, haven't we? And this is on Monday night. So
don't tell me that. Is it really?
yes, it is. Which is
that
we
sucks.
have to.
Yeah.
That's why the main podcast next week is going to be on a Tuesday because obviously we need to talk about this game. But yeah, Genoa are currently 13th in the Serie A standings. They cruised to safety after a bit of a wobble earlier in the season. They're 14 points clear of the bottom three. They're not on a great run at the moment, but they're in that kind of mid-table bunch with Udinese, Como, and Torino, so they are fine. Patrick Vieira has done a pretty good job there, and in their most recent outing, they lost 1-0 away at Como. Before that, they lost to Lazio. Before that, they drew with Verona 0-0. So yeah, they are going through the motions a little bit late in the season. Their last 4 games, by the way, are us, Napoli, Atalanta, and Bologna. That's pretty rough. It's a good job they've got the points on the board because otherwise, that's a murderous row.
Can they even drop down into anything dangerous?
No.
Or no, they're clean.
No, 14 clear, so they're mathematically safe.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they did draw a 0-0 with us in our anniversary game. Got that kit right there.
God. That felt fitting, didn't it? Fitting of the season. We have a big celebration at San Siro with a nice kit that we wanted to see goal celebrations in, and then Genoa just came and said no.
Coach was sacked after it. He played Bartazaghi, Liberali. He didn't play Teo at all. Just Camarda. Like, it was all the youth kids.
Yeah.
That game sucked. So hopefully we don't look at that as anything. I mean, they have Hugo Cuenca? When did that happen? Have they always had him?
No, we sent him there in January, I believe.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't recall that happening. He's injured.
Permanent.
Balotelli's got a broken hand. Forgot he was there too. Malinovsky. He might be back. It says he's still injured, but it says early May return, so maybe he comes back in time. I doubt it.
Why would you risk him?
Yeah, exactly.
For anything. Yeah, they just looking at Genoa here. They're not losing games. They've got the least losses of any team in the bottom half, and they've let in 41 goals in 34 games, which is the least of any team in the bottom half. They've only scored 29, so there's going to be a lot of 1-0 wins in there, no doubt, that have got them over the line. But it's a job well done by Vieira. He's gone in there, stabilised them, solidified them, and led them pretty comfortably to safety. Pinamonti being the main player for them with 8 goals in the league. And then you're looking at the next top scorer having 3. We've got Fabio Moretti on 6 goal contributions, Aaron Martin on 4, Caleb Ekuban on 4, Coney de Winter, centre-back, who's scored 3 times. We've been linked with him recently. So, yeah. Don't know, I still think this will be tough. I think we've all of a sudden got we've got a run up to carefully manage. We need to peak in this cup final, which is added pressure to an extent. But when you consider that we play Bologna twice in 5 days and the league meeting means a lot for them and it means very little for us, it does feel like the cards are a little bit in our favour. So, but there's a big enough gap between the games. So I'm going to say that he's not going to heavily rotate in this. I think we go for the continuity. We go to try and keep another clean sheet and hope we nick it, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're just looking ahead to Bologna more than anything, and this should be business as usual. Hopefully not our this season usual, but our past history usual. And yeah, it could be our 3rd consecutive clean sheet. I don't see much from Genoa, to be honest.
No, as mentioned, they're struggling to score goals at the moment. They've scored 1 in their last 5 games, like Inter. But they're playing a 4-2. No, they're playing a 4-1-4-1 according to this, and it seems that they're blooding some kids in as well. They played Ahano, Casa, Massini in the last game, and Ekator up front.
I think he seems to be rotating quite a bit actually, because they're safe. Maybe they had Junior Messias. Shit, yeah, that's a problem. Pinamonti, Zanoli all came off the bench. Sabelli came off the bench. Yeah, clean sheet again. The target. Call me boring, but we've kept 3 in 4 games. We conceded 1 and scored 9 with the new formation. So I'm not saying that 4 games is definitive proof. There are mitigating circumstances in each of them, but I think once you get to 5 and beyond, you can start looking at a proof. And do you know what? I'd start Santi Jimenez in this game.
Ooh, I would too. I think we never should have benched him, to be honest. But yeah, definitely start him in this. Give him the full force behind him. Pulisic, Leao, Alex Jimenez. The whole starting 11. And this is a game to really see, like, okay, are you capable? Yeah, he got the goal against Venezia, and yeah, he started really hot with an assist against Roma in his debut, and then a goal in a Serie A debut as well. And he hasn't been terrible in the games that he's played in. He's just, I don't know, he's just fallen out of favor. So I would give him this to see if he could get back into it, because ultimately he's our 40 million euro striker, and we need to play him.
Got to get him firing. Get him firing. As I mentioned before as well, I think he's going to be a real confidence player. Like, he'll have a run of good games when everything he touches goes in, and he'll probably have some bad runs as well. So I think we need to try and exploit that goal against Venezia. And also, I'm working under the assumption that Jovic probably won't be 100%. He probably won't return to training until later in the week, and therefore it doesn't make sense to risk him, really. But I'd keep absolutely everything else the same. If feel like anyone's knackered, then you'd maybe bring Bondo into the midfield or something, just because I could see him working in the system. But I'm happy to keep it as it is.
Agreed.
And I'll say that we'll have it. We'll nick it 1-0. I think it'd be a horribly tight game, but I think we'll nick it.
I'll go 2-0. I think it's going to be very similar to the Venezia game. Maybe an early goal and a late goal.
Yeah. All right, and we'll do a quick couple of questions then. Rohit asks, I had a debate with him actually earlier this week, which is surprising, but we were talking about whether you need to be the best defense or the best attack to win Serie A. And I was, both helps, doesn't it? But Inter were both last season, for example. But if you go back past the past 5 years, the best defense has won Serie A. With the attack, it's different. I was arguing in favour of defence, and that's why I'm saying that this system and these clean sheets are gold dust for us, because it gives us a platform to build from. Whereas if we'd beaten Inter 3-2 and we'd beaten Venezia 3-2 or whatever, I don't think I'd be quite as optimistic. But anyway, his question: was Conceição forced to change to a 3-4-2-1 because we don't have a proper attacking midfielder? Felix was supposed to be that, but he's shit. Fair play.
I think the midfielder, the attacking midfielder, is not a necessity for me personally. I think it's a luxury position that no team needs. You put that in there when you're like Madrid level Galacticos and you're just running out of things, and you got to appease fans with a big name signing. It's not something that, like, it's never that missing link for a team. It is if you're forcing your team to play with it and you don't have one, then yeah, you got to find somewhere to slot that in. But the correct solution is just a formation without one. I just don't think they're a necessity anymore. It really doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't do it for me, to be honest with you. And also, just to go back, I'm looking now because I could have sworn best attack wins the league more often than not, and the only season where the best attack has not been the Scudetto champions in the last, since Juventus's drop off, which, to be fair, even then was when we won it.
We won that. That maybe that's where my I don't know, is it selection bias, whatever, comes into it, because I just remember.
But we did have the best defense, so
we did, yeah, and I remember that run. The reason that we won the title that year is because obviously we held our nerve, but the reason that we held our nerve is because we conceded 2 goals in our last 11 games. You know, we won the league doing that, and we even had some 0-0 draws in that. But it's just like if
if you're keeping clean sheets for fun, as we kept 9 in those last 11 games. You only ever need 1 goal to win it. Look at Napoli, because another part of our debate was, about the need for a world-class forward. And I said that we probably didn't have one in our Scudetto season, although Leao was MVP and that was his best season, I would say. Although maybe the season after he got better numbers. But anyway, we had Macias or Salamanca's on the right wing. We had Brahim Diaz shoehorned in, and then we moved Kessie up to play attacking midfield. We had a 36-year-old Giroud. Ibra, wasn't able to contribute as much as he'd have liked. Napoli this season, for example, have had a lot of useful goals from McTominay. They've lost Kvara, so I think that's their world-class forward gone. But Conte still... And Osimhen, yeah. But like Osimhen to Lukaku is a downgrade in most people's eyes. But actually, it's that Conte needs Lukaku as his comfort blanket to almost build the team around. But above all, they're just not conceding any goals. Like they can have the odd goal from a midfielder, the odd goal from it. Don't matter where they're coming from. They are going to win games because they're not letting any goals in.
They have 6 less goals conceded than the 2 teams in tied for second, Atalanta and Juventus. So
and you think about how good
they are 20 goals behind Inter for goals scored. So absolutely, the offense is not the key this season.
Maybe that's recency bias. Bit of recency bias and selection bias has made me think, if you got the best defense, you've got a really good chance of winning the league. I mean, remember Juve for those 9 straight when they had Bonucci.
No, but you're still right. Even with what I pointed out, the best defense has won it every year.
Yeah,
and the best offense has been the best defense as well for all but 1 season. And then this will be the second.
So we have five. The winners changed the last 5 times, right? And then that last season that Juve won it, I think they didn't have the best defense. But it wouldn't surprise me if the previous 8 before that they did. It must have been tied.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go back that far, to be honest. But
you're looking at potentially 13 out of the last 14 seasons, it would be the best defensive team. Maybe.
So Juventus, their last year that they won it,
that's the one where they didn't. Because they lost.
5th best offense, and 1, 2, and 3rd best defense. So they weren't the best team in any way other than points gained, and it was only by 1 over Inter. So that's crazy.
Yes.
Atalanta scored 98 goals that year. Insane.
Yeah.
And I think Atalanta is actually what's skewing it because they've been so attack heavy.
Yeah. That's the proof. You can score 3 goals a game, but anyway, I thought that was an interesting debate. And in answer to the question, I think when you look at it rather simply from a tactical chessboard point of view, what he has done is taken the attacking midfielder out and put a centre back in. That is effectively what's happened here. Of course, it's not quite as simple as that because the structure changes during build-up. It changes off the ball, and we're playing actually quite a similar shape off the ball. But I think it's more so just about the solidity and transition, and that's one thing that we've looked a lot better in the last 4 weeks. In the last 4 games, we do not seem to be getting exposed as much going the other way. Players taking a bit of responsibility as well for that and realizing the right moments. I think there's various elements to it, but not having a proper attacking midfielder, it makes you wonder why that change wasn't made earlier. The only shame is that we've finally done this in April when a few of us have been calling for it for quite a long time. But yeah, I'll ask one more because I thought this was interesting. JT Physio, what's worse, finishing mid-table with 2 domestic trophies or thinking you're going to win the treble and then win 0?
Definitely the win 0. At least we get to go home with a little something,
Yeah, I'll take the trophies. They've cut the gap too much recently.
By doing exactly this, stat padding these doubles.
Super Coppa and Coppa, yeah. Don't get me wrong. If you were to ask me, would you rather win the Serie A title or the Coppa and the Super Coppa? I'd take the title. Yeah, because it's second star and all that stuff. So it's not always a case of quantity over quality. But I think in this case, when Inter have been... That's the thing. I have no problem saying they've been a vastly superior team to us all season. Yeah, they may end up with nothing. They play us. Yeah, and that might end up being
Yeah.
the reason they end up with nothing and we end up with 2 things. Of course, not getting ahead of ourselves. We've got a tough final against Bologna.
Yeah,
But
if my option was, you know, securing Champions League but no trophies, or ninth and two the 2 trophies, I'm probably leaning towards Champions League, to be honest
are
with
you
you.
really?
But the difference is, okay, that's like expectation, whereas winning the 2 trophies and finishing ninth is you had a 38 game season in between those 6 good games and you shit the bed on all of them. So over the year, it's more frustrating. And if you're thinking there's an opportunity to win the treble, and then in the last month and a half of the season, you bottle every competition, like I think that's going to be more devastating than, oh, well, we had a bad year, but at least we got some silverware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think that if we finish ninth, let's say, because there's still like quite a gap to eighth, if we finish ninth and we win 2 trophies, it's a bit of a sickening reminder that we do have something about us and we underperformed so much in the league. But then I'd almost be encouraged to be like, if
There's something there
in
to build
such a
on.
low ebb we manage to get some success, no matter how it comes, can we do a Napoli next season? You know, can we rebound in a big way? I think it's going to be very difficult, but there's something there to hold on to. The season, the 125th season as well, remember, you know, it's a significant one, has not been a complete write-off. And football, ultimately, as fans, you know, why you want to say why do you want to qualify for the Champions League? Of course, there's the prestige aspect of it, but we know that it means money. Now, we as a fan base mostly have been saying we're sick of the account Scudetto.
Yeah.
We actually want to exist to win trophies. If we then turn around after a season like this and say, actually, we preferred the no trophies in the top 4, we're kind of feeding into their argument.
I think the reason people want that is because the ultimate trophy is the Champions League. You could only win it if you're in the competition.
Mm-hmm.
You're never winning the Champions League finishing ninth because you'll never play in the Champions League. So even if, I mean, I guess the only way that happens, you finish ninth, you win the cup, you go into Europa, you win Europa, you finish ninth again, and now you're in the Champions League finishing ninth. But that's not happening. No one's going to do that. So fingers crossed, at least. I don't want it to be us next season.
Yeah.
I would,
also,
although I would take a ninth place finish and winning the Europa League next season. I'll tell you that up front.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we lose the Coppa Italia final, I would still consider it a disaster of a season.
Yes.
You know, I had Super Cup's fine because we can use it as something to mock into with if they end up with nothing. But it needs to be 2 domestic trophies and then Europa League from that and stuff. We'll wrap it up there. Anyway, this has been a fun one. Nice to talk about 5 goals, none in our
No
net.
concedes. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no games for a week, which I'm fine with. It's been a long and exhausting season. The sun's out here. Just enjoy it a little bit.
I think I have my window cracked. That's why I keep looking over, because I'm just getting this cold breeze on my arm here.
But yeah, we're back later this week with another bonus episode, and we're back next Tuesday with a main pod episode, obviously, so we can cover the Genoa game. In the meantime, stay tuned later today for the article over on the Substack. And I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys next time.
Have a good week.